What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review. I got a top 10 list for you guys. In this video, I will be ranking Christopher Nolan's 10 films in his 20-year career. I won't be including following the very first film he made, which makes 11 films, just because I never saw that one. But I'm very excited to rank his other 10 films, because every single one of those films are extraordinary. He produces, writes, and directs extraordinary films, tells amazing stories, and I look forward to every single one of his films. I recently saw Tenet 3 times in IMAX, I might add, and after watching that movie, I just felt, okay, it is time. He's made 10 films, and it is time to rank them all up. So let's do this, and by the way, we're gonna have, and by we, I mean myself and you guys, the Christopher Nolan fans, I'm sure we're gonna have similar but also different lists, and I know that, like I said before, he has extraordinary films in his career, so just because I rank some of his films lower doesn't mean that they're bad films. It just means I prefer some of his other films more. So that brings me to number 10, because I know this might upset some hardcore Christopher Nolan films, and that is Memento. Memento is number 10. Yes, I rank it lower, the lowest in fact, and that is because, well, it is an extraordinary film. It has a very, very unique story, and Guy Pearce puts in a really great performance, and I really love his character, but the thing is that it feels like an incomplete story. That's just how I feel. It feels incomplete. I want to know more about what happens both before the events of the film and after the events of the film, or after the events of, you know, whatever happens. So, you know, I wish there was more to it, and, you know, I feel like, oh man, that's it. Like, it was satisfying in the sense that it solved the puzzle, but I know there's more to it, so that's why I feel like, ah man, it's not so much a missed opportunity, but more like the fact that there should have been more to it. So there you have it. That was number 10. Number 9 is Tenet. Tenet is what I like to call Memento on steroids. It's kind of like, if you did not enjoy Memento, you're not going to enjoy Tenet. But actually, I felt that Tenet was a very enjoyable movie. It's highly entertaining, and it has a lot of elements that was borrowed from Memento, especially with the forward and backwards moving story. But I actually enjoyed the first and second act of the film, but the third act really just frustrated me, because I felt that it didn't wrap things up as in the way that I wanted to. So also, it just feels like there's so many mysteries, there's so many questions still. Even though they wrapped it up, there's so much more to it, and Christopher Nolan's actually leaves it up to our imagination to figure it out. So it is still a good movie. It's an extraordinary film, and it's got a lot of wonderful moments in it, but I felt that there could have been more. Not in terms of, like, you know, extra minutes added to the running time, but I feel like he could have done it better. You know, it could have been executed a little better. Okay, number 8, The Prestige. Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman are both magicians battling out, and the consequences to their duel becomes deadly. And I just felt that was such a cool premise. These two magicians that are in competition with each other try to outdo each other, and it leads to deadly consequences. I mean, what a cool concept. And I feel like it's one of probably his darkest film, and it has some pretty interesting concepts in there. Very, very unique and thought-provoking concepts, and like I said, it's a very, very dark movie. Number 7, Batman Begins. Now, when I first saw Batman Begins, I didn't like it as much as I do now. Like, I absolutely love this film, but the first time I watched it, it was not as good to me. And when I watched it recently, which was just a few days ago, my feelings for what I didn't like about it still stands, and that is, everything about the movie is perfect. Okay, really, everything about the movie except one thing, and that is the way the fights were filmed. The way the fights were filmed was very, very, you know, Bourne Identity style, like very, very choppy, a lot of rapid fire editing, up close, a lot of different angles, and it's kind of like a mess. It's hard to follow the physical actions, right? So, you know, I'm glad that he doesn't do that anymore. But that that was Christopher Nolan's very first time filming an action, like a big action movie, right? So I guess because of that, he employed this very, very aggressive style to it, which I didn't really like, but I really enjoyed the rest of the movie. The rest of it was awesome. Like, this is a really great Batman film. It's an excellent origin story, but the action could have been a little better. Okay, Dunkirk. Number 6 is Dunkirk. This is a great film, okay? This is so interesting that there's 3 stories going on, all take place in different times of the same event, but they all meet up in the end. And that's so cool because you don't expect that to happen. You don't really make that much sense out of it at the beginning, but later on we get to the second half of the film, and of course at the end of the film it finally makes sense. And I think it's great that he did it this way because there are other stories being told. There are 3 stories being told simultaneously. Some take longer than others, but the way he made that work was quite flawless, and it tied everything together really well. And it was just intense. It's Hans Zimmer's score was very harrowing and very just made it very scary because you were right in the middle of the battle. So they were just the British soldiers were just waiting there, waiting for survival, and that's all they could do. They're pretty helpless, and there was such great direction there to really put you right in the middle of that battle. So that was really great. Now we're gonna get into the top 5. Number 5 is Insomnia. Now this is a great film. This is a detective story solving this murder, and it takes place in Alaska where there's 24 hours of daylight, and that of course affects the detective played by Al Pacino's judgment. And there's great performances from Al Pacino and Robin Williams. They're so good in this movie, and it's really intense. It's suspenseful, and it's a very thought-provoking detective story, and I really enjoyed it just because it was not your typical detective story. It was really quite suspenseful, and there's a lot of moving parts to the story, and it wasn't your straightforward cop versus bad guy type of story. Number 4. Now, I moved my ranking around a lot for these last 4 films. For number 1, 2, 3, 4, I used to move them around, like the configuration of these films was very different. But after doing a Christopher Nolan marathon recently, ever since I got my 65-inch 4K TV, now I have a better understanding of which Christopher Nolan films I like more. So number 4 is The Dark Knight Rises. This was a very, very epic ending, an appropriate ending to the Dark Knight trilogy. I know a lot of people say that this film is the weakest link in the trilogy. I completely disagree. This was a fantastic film. I love the way it ended. Bane was awesome, played by Tom Hardy. I really love this take on Catwoman, Selena Kyle, and it was just freaking epic. This was a full-on like wow, this is like one of his biggest movies, so it was really awesome. Number 3. Now this film used to be my number 1 Christopher Nolan film, Inception. Inception, I really love. I freaking love this movie so much. I love everything about it. The action, the acting, the concept, the ideas, the music. As a package, this film is really, really great. As a whole package and experience. It's so awesome. I put it at number 1 before, but now it's number 3. Number 2. The Dark Knight. I know a lot of people are saying to me, hey, this should be number 1. This really should be number 1. But the fact is that, and you didn't know this, I actually ranked The Dark Knight Rises higher than The Dark Knight before I rewatched them recently. But I watched it again. The Dark Knight is a brilliant film and is the best of the trilogy, and it also is pretty much the godfather of comic book movies. It's such an epic story. They basically wrapped a comic book movie around a crime drama, and they did it so well. You have this brilliant performance by Heath Ledger, the late Heath Ledger as Joker, and this take on the Joker was so amazing. Like, it was just the best. So, that in itself just makes this film so much more extraordinary. And The Dark Knight is just it's such an amazing movie. It's an incredible film. Number 1, you already know what it is, Interstellar. Now, why do I like this film so much? It's not even rated that high for a Christopher Nolan film on Rotten Tomatoes. Why do I like it so much? And this is just me. It's all because I'm very fascinated by space travel, outer space. I'm really fascinated by it, and with that being said, every single moment in this film excites me. There's so much about it that I think is so awesome, even though a lot of it's beyond my comprehension, such as the equation, solving the equation of gravity. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's still really cool. And the fact that they go to wormholes and black holes and different planets and worlds and all that space travel, it's so awesome. And Hans Zimmer composed a really, really different score that was so different from all the other Christopher Nolan films. And I really like what he did with this, with just a church organ. Like, it was so appropriate. And when I watched this film in IMAX, and I watched it in IMAX 3 times, it was the closest thing to feeling what it's like to be in outer space. It was so cool. It really gave me that feeling. And then I watched it, of course, on my giant screen, and it just, like, it brought me back to that. And it was such a good feeling. And then as the film ended, I just felt like I wanted to clap. It was just such a good movie. So there you have it. There's my ranking of the 10 Christopher Nolan films. I know that other people's ranking is going to be higher, and or different rather. I know that they're going to rank The Dark Knight as the best film. But still, I'm pretty sure my ranking is not that far off from a lot of people. But I know they'll probably disagree with the fact that I put Memento at the bottom. Anyways, why don't you let me know your ranking on the comment section below, and I'd love to know what your ranking is. As always, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.